Do you even know you sat here and there's people in here? It just feels quite peaceful sat here.
It's nice though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just you and 6 cameras.
But it doesn't feel like there is 6 cameras, Ben. That's the homely atmosphere that you've all created.
It's only taken almost 2 years.
Red. I remember one of these for a while.
He has to have the same snacks out everything.
Really,
yeah. He's a bit weird.
Casper, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, Kasper. Yeah, well, Jesus, man.
Gosh.
Okay, mate.
Good. Thank you.
That's a proper. That's a handshake.
He's so strong.
Wow.
We have already
Goalkeeper's
said.
hands.
Was I a bit grumpy last week?
Yeah, you were
Was I
really
was I
grumpy last
You were grumpy
week.
last
No,
week.
no, no,
weren't
you were
You were grumpy last week.
You were
I think
doing
you were,
exactly what you do to me all the
I
time.
think you were on your
Tell me, let's see
period,
that.
to
What
be
is it?
fair. Casper's the best smelling guest.
Is that
Oh,
right?
oh.
What is it he's got on, Kasper?
No,
What are you wearing, Casper?
Can I not tell?
No, because
Yeah.
you're meant to keep it
Don't
to
tell,
yourself.
never
Tell
tell
us.
Cass.
Tell us,
You might
Casper.
get a sponsorship deal out of it.
Casper, go on.
It's Louis Vuitton Imagination.
How much is Celtic paying you? Saying that Salah. Remember Salah? We interviewed him
How you
after.
say?
Oh, he smelled
Lovely.
beautiful.
It's funny.
That was after the game.
I'll tell you about Des Walker. Des Walker.
It's
It's like he
beautiful.
went onto the pitch. He had after. He smelled amazing.
I think, who is the best smelling Patrick Vieira?
Louis
And he would
Vuitton.
never share what it was when he was at Man City.
Is it?
How did you
Yeah.
smell him?
What are you
Well,
doing?
'cause you-
Going around smelling
What are you
people, Jill?
doing, Jill?
wrong with you,
just when we
Jill?
were like in
Jill,
the academy.
do you know before when me and you said we change our noses? Is
Yeah,
it
I
you
know.
smell it?
How do you smell him?
No.
He worked at City, didn't he, at the academy?
Yeah, I know he worked there, but how did you smell him?
Well, because we were in like literally the smallest building ever when we first signed for City, so he was just always there and he smelled
You know,
lovely.
aftershave. You know when you were growing up?
Fahrenheit, I used to drink that stuff.
Yeah. But what I'm saying
Da
is...
Vinci.
Duke.
Da Vinci.
I thought because it was called aftershave, you'd only put it on.
Oh, yeah,
So
After
after
you shave.
shave.
put your spray on, but if you didn't have a shave, I wouldn't put stuff on. I think that was a bit like, what are you putting smelly stuff? You'd had to put
Yes.
it on after the shave.
After shave.
And because I didn't shave that often, I hardly ever put it on.
I know, where do you actually
This
put
is,
aftershave?
I
Just
you
like...
just spray it here. But what I'm saying is, I used to think, I can only put it on after the shave. But
Saying that, we done a game, was it last year with Patrick, did he do it? And he said, Jill, you remember, said, you smell beautiful.
The difference between the best in the world and just below that is mentality. The ones that make it to the absolute top, they're ruthless killers. Someone gave away a penalty away at Chelsea. I was going for the golden glove.
give it away.
Jeff, look.
So you don't forget, do you?
You would always say to him, when you come, you come with violence. I was like, oh, I love that.
Sitting there watching you guys, that was the standard that was set.
I remember thinking, these kids are a nuisance.
So he was behind me, and I'd mark him like that.
The usual one, keeper shouldn't be beaten at the near post.
That kind of indicate, well, it's okay to be beaten at the far post.
Yeah.
No, it's not. We always joke we were the best pub team in the world. So we sat on the bus afterwards and like, lads, this is happening.
Jesus, how much string did you have?
Casper play last night.
Yeah, yeah, we did.
Well, you've done your homework, guys.
Yeah, you must.
Did you
That's
not
what
know you
annoys
played
me.
last night?
No, but I was
what annoys
watching
you,
Palace, Villa.
You just said, were you playing? You must know Celtic
But
were
you
playing.
told me, yeah, but
You must know
watching
Celtic
the
were playing
game.
at home to Aberdeen. Everyone knows that.
You won last night.
We won last night, yeah.
Clean sheet?
Lost in the 90th minute.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you got beaten by the near post.
He already knew that. He knew that.
Cass, is that,
Game was over,
See
Cass.
when it happens, like...
That's what I used to say to your dad, strangely
When you
enough.
get into that stage of the game, Cass, right, and are you actually starting to think, oh, I just don't want to concede now? I know you don't want to concede anyway.
I was going to say, that's the whole game. No, I think particularly, and again, that's the thing with clean sheets, I think, is it's a bit of like a vanity stat because we're 4-0 up at the time. You know, we are pretty comfortable within the game, and then they go and get a goal, and then we go straight down and score again.
But that's what I mean about, like, when you're 4-0 up as a goalkeeper, that's when you think, right, I've got to keep a clean sheet.
I think, Kasper, I'm the same as you. I can still remember times, and I'd feel worse, the fact that it was 4-0 and then they scored than if it was 1-0 or not 1-0, you'd be drawing, but say it was 2-0. And I always go back to a game. Oh, I still remember it, Portsmouth away. It was our last away game of the season, and we were going for the record most clean sheets. So at Liverpool, I think Hansen and Lauritsen, it was like we were both on 33 clean sheets for the season. So we're beating Portsmouth 3-0. Harry Huel doesn't go with the fullback on an overlap. The goal goes in, back post, last minute of the game, we win 3-1. I come in, I kick the door, like put my foot right through the door. When we came in the dressing room, and everyone was like, I was like a lunatic, and we didn't get the clean sheet. And the next week we played at home against fucking Charlton. Benitez rested all players because we had the Champions League final. We drew 2-2 at home with Charlton, so we don't get the clean sheet again. We don't get in the Champions League final, and we don't get the record, and it all goes back to that fucking Portsmouth game. Harry Kane at home with his runner.
Isn't it clean sheet bonus though?
No, but it was just a thing to say we
get
had the
a
most clean
clean sheet
sheets, and it was like...
We'd have to get Harry on the podcast.
Yeah, get Harry on, yeah.
See, that's called hard work.
No, 'cause-
back. He's
But
a
would you have been,
boy. Don't be
would you have been annoyed last night,
Hard work,
Kasper?
Harry.
Yeah, I mean,
Mentality.
particularly, yeah, it's a
You want back?
mentality thing. It's a mentality, and to be fair, we've been brilliant at it this season. You know, when we have had games where we have been comfortable, we have been quite ruthless. I think it's more of a ruthless mentality that you're saying, like we're not going to be beaten in.
You'd have been annoyed in the dressing room last night.
Yeah, I was annoyed, and also because I think I didn't actually know this at the time, but I was told afterwards that it would have been the first time in Celtic history that a team had kept 10 clean sheets.
In a row at home.
In a row at home. And we've only conceded 2 at home all season, and that was against Aberdeen back in October. So this was the first time we conceded since October at home.
Sloppiness at the end. Just
so
that'll
something like
stick
that.
in your head.
Yeah, 100%. But again, I think
It will.
No, it will.
Oh, you got to get that record again. You got to go another. You got to 10 more. Oh,
Well, yeah, by doing 10 games.
I know, but it's hard to do.
it is.
Yeah,
It is.
Do our records are there to be broken.
I know, but they never broke it.
Yeah, but somebody else will probably
I
break
know, but
it.
it mightn't be him.
Yeah, but when you get that league medal in a few weeks, hopefully it won't be on the back how many clean sheets you had. Is that you get that medal? Don't get bogged down.
I 100% agree. I mean, for me, that's why I say clean sheets is more of a vanity stat because it's much more about. I'd much rather win 2-1
I've never been
than
called
draw
vain.
0-0.
I've never been called vain.
No.
So again, it is all about winning, and you have that. I probably had about an hour of frustration after the game, but then
You're all right now.
But yeah, you win the game, and that's at the end of the day, that's the most important thing.
Can I ask you about this? Because I used to have this debate with Pepe Reina. So the goalkeeper, when you get clean sheets, I know what you're saying. The most important thing's winning, but like the top goal scorer gets a golden boot. And in England now, I don't know if they have it in Scotland, like there's a golden gloves or something if the most clean sheets. Why does the keeper get it?
Well, again,
who's more important to a
I-
clean sheet, a keeper or a back four?
No, that's
No
again.
chance. Absolutely no
Keeper.
chance.
Keeper.
No chance.
I'd actually more agree with you in the sense that as a keeper, you can only keep 1 clean sheet a game. You could, not like a golden boot. You can score more than 1 goal a game, but it gives you a platform to win the game, obviously. Yeah. But it's at the end of the day, it's not that important to keep a clean sheet. The most important thing is to go and score goals and win the game. But listen, the year we won the league, I lost the Golden Glove because of a penalty. Like someone gave away a penalty away at Chelsea. You know, I was going for the Golden Glove.
Give it away.
Jeff Schlupp.
So you don't forget, do you?
Also, we had the game before against Everton. We had the chance, and N'Golo Kante missed his first tackle of the season. You know, and Kevin Morales scores, and yeah, that definitely sticks in my mind because you figure out, or you find out that there are certain times in careers that you might have a chance to win these things. I never played for teams in the Premier League that were always competing for these kind of things, but I had one chance to win a Golden Glove, and it didn't happen. And that's, of course, as a vanity thing. Of course, that's something you look back and think, oh God, I'd love to have had that. But at the end of the day, after the Everton game, I stood with the real trophy. And
I still go with the goalkeeper.
Would you swap it for the Golden Glove?
Definitely
I'll
not.
go with the goalkeeper.
Definitely
because
not.
He's making that.
No,
that
but
save.
okay then. Let's give. This is what I used to say to Reina to wind him up anyway. The best defence in the league, the best back four, and the worst goalie. Yeah, put them together. Put the best goalie in the league and the worst defence together. Who'll keep the most clean sheets?
Probably the
Yeah, the
sorry,
best defence.
Yeah, no,
Anyway, it's a stupid yeah, let's
There's
go.
4 of them.
Go on, Gal.
No, but I do agree with you because it is one of those things that the best games for me are the ones where I'm not involved because that's when the team is working perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're playing for top clubs, you know, as a keeper, you might just have one action a game. You know, and that's because of your defence, and that's because of, particularly in modern football, because of the pressing now. You've got to be 11 people, 10 people pressing and defending, and it gives me a much better chance as a keeper of getting a clean sheet if they're all on it.
And remember, he used to be a defender, Kasper. You know, there's different angles to these arguments. Yeah.
This episode of Stick to Football is brought to you by Sky Bet. This episode of Stick to Football is brought to you by Huel. I finished playing football and was finding a new way of living, a new way of sort of being in the office where you're not training, you're basically sort of snacking, picking things up, not eating properly, not eating at the right times, and started to basically sort of do things very differently. Not training, obviously, is the biggest thing because you're training for a couple of hours a day as a footballer, but then not eating the right things, and before you know it, you're on a sort of a... And then I just thought, right, I'm going for it. So now I train 6 o'clock, 4 or 5 times a week. I eat breakfast properly, eat lunch properly, but then I will in mid-afternoon, or if I don't get a lunch, because the odd time, say, for instance, even like today, to be fair, I'm travelling now somewhere, we've run over till 1:30, it'll be a day where I will basically go for one of these. And then sometimes if I'm not eating till later at night, like 7:30, 8, let's say I'm going to a dinner of some kind, I'll be thinking about 4 o'clock, thinking, oh, I can't get to 8 o'clock. And that's where sort of I use them. Right now, new customers can get my exclusive offer plus a free gift at huel.com/the overlap. That's my exclusive offer plus a free gift for new customers at huel.com/the overlap. I actually have said that the goalkeeping position is, I think it's been disagreed with around this table, is the most difficult position on the pitch. I'm going to ask a goalkeeper, would you agree?
No, I agree with that.
I agree in the sense that it's like everyone always says you've got to be crazy to be a keeper. And I agree with that because goalkeeping is the position of ultimate responsibility. Without perfection, or as close to perfection as possible, you're going to cost your team. And there's no worse feeling in the world than costing your team or walking off that pitch, looking around the stadium, like this is my fault. You know, so to embrace and love that kind of pressure, you've got to be a little bit crazy because that's a big pressure. Because any mistake we make will be exposed. So I think we have to be more meticulous in our preparation in everything that we do. I think we have to assume a responsibility that not many people on the pitch would assume. I think if outfielders maybe had the same attention to detail, then you know, we'd probably be better, but we cost the team if we make mistakes, so we have to be ultimately prepared.
Yeah, but your biggest challenge is a reaction after a mistake. Everyone says
100%.
At the big clubs, if you make a mistake and it's cost you, it's how you react. It's your next movement, not that it drags you down.
Yeah.
The great goalkeepers, including your dad, would obviously make mistakes. That's the name of the game. We all make mistakes, but the top goalkeepers would move on quickly from it. Yeah. Like a top striker, you miss a chance, it's gone. I think that's the test for the top goalkeepers mentally, isn't it?
Would you use a psychologist?
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because I think as a goalkeeper, I always remember Rafa Benitez saying something as a goalkeeper and a defender, we can't win the game, we can only lose the game. You know what I mean? We've got to try and keep it, the guys at the top will win the game. So it's about not making mistakes. And I know the feeling I used to have making a mistake, but I'm sure that must be doubly difficult for the goalkeeper. You know, if you're probably more susceptible to that making a mistake or maybe costing your team, and I found that difficult as a player over the next few days, waiting for the next game, always thinking I want to play the next day.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, I've used psychologists a lot, but I think as a keeper, you've got to be bulletproof. So I think particularly my dad and you'd obviously know is that there was this bravado of it's never your fault. But that's a kind of no. But you've got to protect yourself because if you start doubting yourself, and if any kind of doubt creeps into you, then you're in trouble as a keeper. No. So you have to kind of put on this cloak of invincibility that it's never my fault. You know, it's always someone, and that's probably just a coping mechanism. But you have to have this. You have to have this confidence in yourself, and I think the confidence comes in the work that you do. Like if you're preparing right, if you make sure that throughout your career, particularly in the younger years, you're getting your basic handling techniques, all these little things, you're getting them right. That just means the muscle memory's there. So that automatically just builds the confidence. And then when you make a mistake, you've just got to own it. That's it. You move on because the worst thing you then do is go looking for work as a keeper. Because if you go looking for work and wanting to show, actually, that mistake isn't me, I want to go and show that I'm better than that, then you start causing chaos within the team and you start causing chaos within the defence and then more mistakes are made. So
I've never heard a goalkeeper side. It's really interesting that, you know, that sort of thing of when I'm trying to think of it as a player, you know, you give a pass away, you want to get the ball and make your next pass right. But as a goalkeeper, you're probably thinking, I mightn't touch the ball for 10 or 15 minutes. How difficult is that to stop yourself getting involved? Is that something you learn with maturity?
I always looked at outfielders as lucky in the sense that, you know, I think you said that, you know, you'd sometimes just smash into someone just to make yourself feel better. I can't do that. I can't go and make myself feel better, because my position is reactionary. I have to wait for something to come, and even the next action could be someone putting it in the top bin, and I can't do anything about that either.
Yeah.
You know, so what you have to learn is patience, and you have to have some kind of feeling of acceptance that this is my position. I'm not going to be able to go and rectify a mistake. I have to wait for the next opportunity to do it, and then you've got to separate yourself from that.
Is that where you can be more vocal? I see certain keepers just say they make a mistake or they're having a quiet, they're shouting at players, and you're going, well, you're not shouting real sense for goalkeepers, and I'm including your dad here and top goalkeepers. It's almost a case of, I'm just keeping myself on my toes. I'm just keeping them on their toes. They're not sitting there going, hopefully I'll get a save in the next 10 minutes. Because I used to think your dad, remember, he used to be shouting, me going, what are you shouting for? We're in control of it. But it was more just for his concentration levels. And
keeping them
staying,
in the game,
yeah, of course.
I think so. I think the game has changed from my dad's era in the sense that the big shouty keepers, you don't see that much anymore.
True, yeah.
And I think, it was a way of keeping yourself involved in the game. Myself, I think when I was younger, I modelled myself on his behaviours, and I think as a young kid coming up, that probably got me in more trouble than anything, because like, who's this little kid shouting and screaming? And then you learn, actually, I can't do that. I have to be different. I have to.
How old was
be
you
more
when you kind of realised? Where did you first go and go where it's on me now? I'm the goalkeeper. I've got to make this happen.
Well, it would have been my league debut for Darlington. I got.
How old was you?
What was it, 17? Something like that, 17, 18?
Young, isn't
it? So it was an emergency loan. I was called up on the Friday, and we played on the Saturday.
Wow.
I came straight to the game. I didn't know anybody, and by the way, we didn't have name on the shirts and all that. So I honestly, I was struggling to kind of communicate.
But isn't that great for a young player?
It was
just
brilliant.
to be thrown in like that, and go, hey, off you go.
It was great, and
I think it was better that way, maybe.
For me, 100%, 100%. And it was one of those. I felt like as a kid, I'd had this dream of being a goalie. And I was a goalie. Right. Granted, it was League Two and all, but it didn't matter. Now it mattered. I'd played reserve football, I'd done all those things, but what I had done, I'd spent so many hours just simple, maybe boring, catching balls, trying to do it. Now I had to implement it. This was now the test for me, right? Okay, I could go in training and I can do all these things in training. Can I now go and bring it in a game? And I remember we played, I think we played about a minute and a half, and they got a wide free kick. And I don't know if you remember, there's a defender called Ben Futcher, who's like 6'6", and they obviously seen this 17-year-old kid. They're right, let's stick it on top of him. So stuck on top. I came out and I punched it, and he absolutely
melted.
Yeah, exactly. But then that was kind of right. I'm in it now. This is it.
Yeah, this is real.
Yeah.
Real
And
football.
honestly, yeah, exactly. It's real football. But what it also was, it wasn't the money of the Premier League. The win bonuses, they mattered to these guys. And I was now responsible for this.
Yeah.
Wow.
If I came into this as a 17-year-old not prepared for this, then I'm going to cost these guys.
Wow.
And that for me, that's real responsibility. And that was what I just felt straight away. Wow, I love this. I love this. This is me.
How difficult, because you had quite a few loan moves, didn't you, at the beginning? Like, how difficult was that to go and like impose yourself in the dressing room?
It.
Did you just...
Loved it. I kept pushing for it because my dad had always said to me about training, you can train all you want, but it's about games. And having games on your CV doesn't really matter at that age about the level, because you've got to be able to go and do it, and you've got to do the hard stuff as well. So for me, it was great because I went to Darlington, I went to Bury, I went to, all these kind of smaller clubs, and I'd come from Man City, and we had great facilities and everything was done for you. And you go to Bury and, you got to wash your own kit, and you got to drive to the training ground. We're training on Goshen Park and things like that. There's glass and dog crap on the floor, but that kind of was like, well, this is the game. And it was all for me, right, I have to do this to get to where I want to be. And I loved it. I was part of a relegation battle in my as an 18-year-old, and we saved ourselves on the last day away at Notts County, and I gave away a penalty and cost a penalty. That was that feeling of, wow, I almost got us relegated.
You obviously saved it, no? You didn't save it.
I didn't save it. We were 2-0 up, luckily, at the time. We were 2-0 up at the time. But again, that was that feeling of responsibility, knowing that, you've got to be perfect here, because it came from a save where maybe in another game I'd have held it, but because of the magnitude of the game, I chose to parry it, and then I went for the second ball, and then clattered into him.
You know when you're going, you should say you're going on loan. That's difficult, I think, for any young player, 17, 18-year-old. But you're a goalkeeper, and you're Peter Schmeichel's son, and you're going into these dressing rooms. Was that ever? I wouldn't say a problem. You know, if you're extra pressure, as if your dad's such obviously a legendary figure in the game. I mean, how did you deal with that, or did you ever find that?
Do you know what? It's weird. My dad always said to me, it's going to be harder for you than anyone. And I didn't understand why. Because at the end of the day, football's football. I loved football. I grew up watching football. I grew up watching you guys. And it was just like, that's where I want to get to. And there was no doubt in my mind I was going to get there. But I think the journey of it is what I learned that, I thought, okay, I'm at Man City, I'll go on loan and then, I'll get my debut and then we're going to be cruising. We're going to be stepping it up every season. But then you get a few setbacks, you get an injury, and you learn actually to do that job of being a Premier League player. That is tough. That is such a tough job. So, in terms of my dad, he never put any pressure on me and said. He always said to me before every game, "You've got nothing to prove. Just go out and play football. Be the guy you are. Love the game." But don't go out to prove anything.
You know, we obviously we've spoke a couple of times on the the CBS show that we do, and his dad's been on the road doing the games and done a couple of Celtic games, and they've come in at the end, and it's been brilliant TV watching. So his dad's interviewing him about the game, and it's been brilliant. And obviously, love working with your dad. Being away from him to Dortmund was an interesting trip, I would say. But there was something your dad said that I took for myself because my son's in the game, and I thought I really like that. He said, you and him almost decided very early on in your career that he was your dad, not your coach. Your coach is at the club, and you had that sort of father-son relationship in goal. Could you just explain how that worked, or also how you decided that, or was that ever a problem at some stage early on?
No, I think I was at sports college in Denmark, and I had the opportunity to stay there another year, or I had an opportunity to go on trial. I went on trial at Man United, at Fulham and Aston Villa. Fulham and Aston Villa gave me the opportunity, and then I went to Man City, and they gave me an opportunity. And basically, my dad and I had a conversation where he just said, right, he asked me, what do you want my role to be? And I said, I want you to be my dad. That's it. Because I just think that relationship between a father and a son particularly is, I didn't want to tarnish that. We had such a good relationship. I didn't want it to become difficult for him because he'd have to be critical of me, which I think now as a father myself, I know that's difficult. And it would just be, the lines would become blurred a little bit. So we made the decision quite early that we're going to stick with what we have. And then, I had Tim Flowers, Premier League winner as well as my coach, so I was in good hands. We had David Seaman as the senior goalkeeper. So there was enough good people around me to learn from. But he was always there if I wanted to ask anything. And I think that what I have used him for is more the life of a goalkeeper or a life of a professional. How do you balance that? I think that's kind of more the conversations that we have. Not really in terms of technical stuff, because I'm built very differently to him. I'm not the same size as him. I have very different attributes to what he had. So I'm never going to be able to be like him. So, it's one of those, we just very, very early decided that we're going to keep this, family and that as kind of business.
I love that.
It's pretty cool.
Good.
Did you think about not being a goalkeeper in sort of youngies? We obviously remember you coming, you always had the goalkeeping top, and obviously your dad's one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time, if not the greatest. So what did you ever think, I want to try and play out, I want to try and play different positions?
I played lots of different, I only really became a goalkeeper probably at 14. Obviously, like you say, I was at the training ground and, stood behind the goal and tried to save some of the shots that went wide and stuff like that. But I didn't. I enjoyed playing outfield as well. So it wasn't really till 14, and I kind of got to a stage where I thought, right, I want to be a professional footballer. What's going to get me there? And I was a winger and a striker. I wasn't quick enough to be a winger. Striker, I could maybe play target man, but it was probably for 40 minutes, no more than that. But so I thought that what's going to get me to be a Premier League player, that would be goalkeeper. So I made the decision at about 14. Right, I'm going to stick to this.
Had you been in goal before that?
Yeah, I'd been a bit kind of all over the place. Like Gary said, I'd been to the training ground a lot. I always had the goalie gloves on and all that, and that was, that for me was the start of my love for football. I used to sit on if you remember the cliff, they had the concrete benches. I used to sit on the roof of that and watch you guys train, do the boxes, do the games with the overturned benches, and that was just like, I was like a sponge, like just absorbing all this, the ferocity, all these
I remember
things.
all the other kids used to come. I remember thinking, these kids are a nuisance. These kids.
Was Tommy in there?
There was a few of the kids. I went, get these out.
I can imagine you, the old grouch you are.
This episode of Stick to Football is brought to you by Sky Bet.
It is great though, like when you see, because I've seen all them pictures of you with the Premier League trophy when you're little, and then to see you then lift it. In that moment, do you think back about being little? And because them pictures, they must be so special to keep, like you with your dad and then you've went and done it. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to say, but winning is the be-all and end-all in my family,
Yeah.
And I think if I look back on my career without a name, just numbers, I'd say, I've done okay. But my dad won 5.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So in my mind, it's never enough. You've got to win every single game. There's no settling. This isn't just a game for me. This means the world to me because the standard was set and that was you guys. As a kid sitting there watching you guys, that was the standard that was set. There's like anything below winning the league or winning trophies. Just that's not good enough. So, but that was all in my mind. That was no one else has kind of said that to me. But that's just the way I grew up because I grew up watching greatness.
Yeah.
And I was so close to it. I was a part of these parties, of winning parties, and again, I think in my young years, I thought, oh, that's normal. Yeah. That's normal.
Yes.
You just at the end of every season, there's a party because we won.
But
then you really, geez, it is a lot harder than that, and you appreciate it a lot more. And I think also with the relationship with my dad, now going into a career age, I appreciate a lot more what he kind of went through as a younger man, balancing life, balancing football, all these kind of things. It's not easy, and that is why not everyone can do it. But
when you obviously wanted to reach the top, seeing your dad, like you mentioned, he's got 5, and you're at certain clubs where you're thinking, is it going to happen here for me? Because obviously it happened at Leicester. It's like winning 5 doing it at Leicester.
Yeah,
it's amazing. You were saying that last week, Gal.
Yeah, I think
it's the best.
Look, it's the greatest achievement by any Premier League club, but it's the greatest, I think, achievement. Maybe I can't think of another achievement that even comes close to it. To Leicester winning the Premier League.
I think Forest. We have to mention Forest.
So yeah, Premier League. Yeah,
but you're talking Premier League. But let's just talk about achievement.
Yeah, no, Forest comes into that category. But to be fair,
Leicester in the Premier League era.
Yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the best achievement, I think. So, I want to go back to that psychologist. What work was the psychologist doing with you specifically? Because I'm thinking about, obviously, you've got your dad as a mentor who, to be fair, had an unbelievable mentality, and you've obviously picked up those traits. You've got a big personality. So, what was the work that the psychologist was doing with you in terms of specifically?
It was more trying to compartmentalize things, to be able to, I don't actually know how to explain it.
Mistake management, basically?
No, because, I don't know, the thing about mistakes is, I was always taught to embrace mistakes because that's where you learn. Right. I was always taught that mistakes in your younger years are good because that's when you learn. It's the mechanism that you then use where you analyze exactly what did I do, and that's what I always did. I always went into real specific detail. If I'd made a mistake, I'd really watch from every single angle, watch things like foot position, things like hand position, all these little minute things. But at the end of the day, I think if you took all 20 Premier League keepers now and you put them in the same training session, they'd all be equally as good. But the difference between the best in the world and just below that is mentality. You know, I think the best goalkeepers, they don't care if they make a mistake. They just embrace that as just a part of the game. You make a mistake and you move on.
Good striker doesn't care if he misses.
You say that about mistakes, and just to counter that, because I know you've come through it, but I look at, say, for instance, the lad at Chelsea now, Jorgensen, I look at Sanchez, they've made a series of mistakes, and I'm only highlighting that goalkeeper because he's the one that I've seen recently. If you make too many mistakes as a goalkeeper, your reputation, and then you get dropped. And when your goalkeeper gets dropped, I think it's the most savage thing in the world when a goalkeeper gets dropped. I always my stomach churns a little bit. When I see two goalkeepers vying for the same position, one makes a mistake, then the other one comes in. It's almost like, and no one likes it in the media, no one likes it in football. You can't make too many mistakes.
No, you can't. And yeah, it's as simple as that. And that is the cutthroat nature of being a goalkeeper. If you make too many mistakes, you're out, and the chances are of you getting back in anytime soon is very, very small.
To feel for goalkeeper. You know, we all see good goalkeepers, and we had at United massive, but these players, they make a mistake and they go under.
They go, yeah.
And you know, you look at us, we walk through and go, no, he's a really good goalkeeper, but they're just going under, and your heart does go to a goalkeeper. I know we can all be critical of goalkeepers. We do the TV every week, he's got to save it, blah, blah, blah. But when you see a really good goalkeeper going under, it's tough to watch, isn't it? And the keepers must have a different view on that.
There's always respect between the keepers because we know what each other's going through. But the ones that make it to the absolute top, they're ruthless killers. They're absolute ruthless killers. Like I said, you have to be bulletproof. So you have to have this magical cape on that you are the man, you are the best, and regardless of what anyone says, whether it's the coach, teammates, your dad, pundits, whatever, you are the best. They have no idea what they're talking about. But that, again, that only comes if you've done the work.
And the hard job.
So if you, like I say, if you've done the work, you know, I always said I never did anything to prove anyone wrong. I do it to prove myself right. And I can only say that because I know I've done the work to be there. If I had cut corners, I wouldn't have that confidence in it. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I'd cut corners.
But keepers
I think your dad was probably described when he was a player. People might say he's arrogant on the pitch. If you didn't know, would people describe you as that? But if they did, what I'm saying is that part of this cloak? Is this part of this like?
Yeah, I think it is. I think you have to have a certain bit of arrogance about you. I think if you look at someone like Emi Martinez, the career that he's had, to get the chance he then had later in his career, it's as if he's put on a cloak and now he is bulletproof.
Invincible.
You know, he is invincible now, and that chest forward now, he's unbeatable and he's one of the best in the world. But that transformation from the guy who's on loan at all these places and never really getting a shot at Arsenal to then going and being the main man for Argentina and for Aston Villa, you know, that's a mentality shift.
Saying he's made a few mistakes this year.
But keepers will make mistakes, and you're always on the border. You're always on the line. And the best keepers, you look at someone like Edison, the bravery he shows in playing that high, that is, you know, you can be brave taking shots.
Scary to watch.
No, but it's not. I love watching it because that, for me, it goes beyond bravery. It's like Neuer. Like Neuer, for me, is the most complete goalkeeper of the last 25 years because there's no weakness. And again, he'll make mistakes by playing that way, but he won't care. He'll do it again.
Yeah.
He'll do it again because the 98 times it goes well, that serves the team a better purpose than the 2 times it goes wrong. And the 2 times it goes wrong, you live with that.
Is it great for goalkeepers now to be appreciated? For years, I know back in the day that everyone thought you needed a top goalkeeper. But remember, we used to train and you'd walk past the goalkeepers doing a few drills and players would go, they're doing nothing. Them. You know, remember? But now everyone looks and go, if you want to go places, you need a bloody good goalkeeper.
Yeah, but it's true.
You mentioned Martinez. I was watching this last night and it absolutely drove me crazy at home. So I actually wound it back and played it. We can't show it on television, but right.
Break this down for us.
There you go.
Right.
So who's this? Who are we talking about?
This is
That's Martinez.
Right.
All right.
He took so long here.
Yeah.
Remember this?
Yeah, we were talking about it. We were here because we're footballing
Yes,
people.
Yes.
And Celtic on the other.
No, rewind it back. We want to hear that.
Yeah, but it's like chess, isn't it? They're waiting for them to make a move.
No, just watch. You have to just watch. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
This is taking so long.
But he picks it up with a guy springs to
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
No, it doesn't pick it up.
They're away from home then. Do you know what I mean?
So
He's waiting for somebody to go up.
Martin's has been on the. He's 25 seconds.
Yeah, what's the score at this time?
0-0.
Right.
15 minutes in.
Yeah, he did pick it up. He did pick it up.
It's happening in front.
Right,
And
I
then-
said he picked it up.
Then
he
they
gets
go
it
back to him.
Yeah. Remember, we was watching this, Roy. He goes wide, yeah.
I mean,
Gal, what are you on
What's your
about?
point?
He's going to give it back to him, then he blasts it. Right.
Right. Back.
Right, and now he's got
Brilliant.
it back.
right. So it's 1 minute of football,
I
that.
thought it was a great play. What's wrong
Beautiful
with you?
That's how they get told to play,
So,
though,
away
isn't
from
it?
home,
It's
gal.
like chess,
Kasper,
like make a
just,
move.
that's 1 minute of football where Emi Martins has literally stood on the ball for 35 seconds and just rolled his foot over it. I mean, can you try and convince me what the strategy is and what the thinking is
You know what
behind
the
that?
strategy is? Yeah.
What is the strategy behind that?
They're trying to
Use
entice him on,
extra
makes a
players.
Entice him on and pass through quick, Gal.
That's Unai Emery's. That we played them in the Champions League, and that was a big feature of it. The second you jump towards him,
Bam.
then
They'll
that's
pop
when the
you
pass
off.
comes. I mean, we at Celtic play differently, so we do a similar thing, but we do it from the centre halves. So when I get the ball, I'm not standing on it. I'm giving it to a
give it
centre
to
half,
them.
and then they're waiting for the movement. And I think it's tactical chess. That's basically what it is. And obviously that example there, it ends up a little bit muddled and it ends up back in his hands. But the whole point of it is obviously to make people move out of position, very much like De Zerbi used to do. They used to stand and wait, and then they pop it off, and that means there's a free man, particularly if they're marking like man to man.
Can I ask you about that? Because
To answer your question,
No,
Gary.
I was going to go back in, to be fair. Whatever happened to shifting the ball?
well, they do that.
Yeah, well, again,
It's a new
for us at Celtic, that is how we play. We try and shift the ball all the time. We try and get everyone moving all the time. But that's just like Chelsea do it as well. They try that thing as well, where they play it off the six out to the centre half that moves up, and it's a style of play. Whether it's the right or wrong, that's not for me to judge. But that's what the manager's asking them to do, and particularly with that example, when we were doing our preparation for Villa, that was very much a part of the preparation. Is the second that you do jump, then he'll knock it off. Either he'll knock it into the six, he'll pass it out, and that's how they want to build their game.
I
Come
think
into the game loads, hasn't it? Like
yeah,
we
but-
did it at Manchester City, but like I prefer the ball speed because I think as midfielders you're always just receiving for a pop off or whatever. But I think the ball speed would help you as a midfielder.
course,
But
yeah.
it
Pace
is
of
something
pass,
that's
yeah.
come into the game, isn't it?
I think the goalkeeping stuff in terms of play, goalkeeper has to be good on the ball. Like, this has been in football now for about 10 years, hasn't it? Probably going back to Pep when he really did it. So I think it's shifted a little bit more, and I don't know if you've noticed this in the last year or so. The game has become a man-to-man game, where basically when people press, it's just man-to-man all over the pitch. So forget your system. When a goalkeeper's got the ball or someone's playing the back, everyone's just moving. And whether that's the influence of Atalanta in the last couple of years or, teams, everyone playing off in the back. The goalkeeper now is the spare man. And I always go back to the game Arsenal lost in the title run-in last season against Aston Villa. And it was Martinez.
Yes.
And we'd done a Champions League game. Arsenal played Porto. And the Porto goalkeeper come out and actually played like an outfield player. Not in the goal, passing it there. He actually went on the same line as back foot. Martinez did the same. And I think teams now can either go long into your front play. We see Ederson do that. But I think the role of the goalkeeper, obviously you know a lot more than me, it won't just be about being in goal and passing it out wide. It'll actually be about stepping out and actually becoming an outfield player because you can't go man for man. Your goalkeeper's down there, so if your goalkeeper actually plays as an out, I think that's probably the next move forward in terms of the goal, becoming almost like an outfield player, because man-to-man now is basically winning the ball high, isn't it? And then you're in trouble around the edge of the box. Is that something you've spoke about or thought about yourself?
100%. I mean, Manchester City's under-18s, they are now playing the most extreme version I've ever seen. So they play a version where the goalkeeper's over the halfway line sometimes. And I think they're testing it to see how it works. But we did, so last year at Anderlecht, the manager called me and we were playing a local derby and he goes, they're very, very man for man. So I'm going to play on the right of a 3. Really? So when we're in possession, I want you stepping out to the right and stepping up past the centre half.
Where would that be on the right? How far away from the goal?
So you're building up with a 3. So
outside
the
the
back,
edge of the line of the box?
Yeah,
Outside the box.
So if you, if you're,
crazy.
So the idea was obviously I'd be the spare man, and we had a very fast winger, and it would be the diags because I could hit a diag. So the idea was to get the ball to me, and then we're hitting diags, and it worked perfectly. We were 3-0 up at half time, and we reverted back to just normal after that. But yeah, then what we did was it ended up more me being the centre. Yeah. And the way Belgian football was very tactical, that we could do that, and I was literally on the line with. But again, that's something you've really got to get used to. But that comes now with training. You say you used to walk past the keepers. That's not a thing anymore. You know, we'll do our warm ups and stuff like that, and obviously a little bit. But we're in every possession now. We're in all of that now because
makes sense.
Not just for ourselves, but the players. You got to be confident.
Get confident and believe.
Yeah, you got to be confident. If you give me the ball bouncing, that I can deal with it. You know what I mean? So. It is changing.
He knew this was coming.
This Valencia story, I've heard this a million times.
So I go out first training session at Valencia, and I walk out and I think, where are the fucking goalkeepers? Because the goalkeepers usually go out and basically they're first out. They do all their sort of warming up stuff. They're diving around, and then they come and join in later.
That's all they do, diving
What's he called? The goalkeeper coach? Was it?
Paco.
No, not Paco. Otto.
Ocho.
Ocho. I said, where the fuck's Ocho? He's probably saying, where am I? But basically, the goalkeepers come out at the same time. They join in the boxes, then join in the little 4v4 possession, and they said, no, the goalkeepers are part of your session. Wow. We do our goalkeeping bit at the end. I was like, and then it made sense, actually, the way in which goalkeepers have been asked to play. And that's the first time I'd ever seen
Yeah, but when they joined in years ago, Gary, they were rubbish, weren't you? Like, the goalkeepers would come in the box, and then you'd be like, we're glad when he gets up. But nowadays, as you said, goalkeepers they're like kicking it properly like outfield players. And you wouldn't see a goalkeeper you wouldn't spot the goalkeeper in the box and you go, listen, he's as comfortable as the others in the box,
Have you ever been put in a position where you felt uncomfortable being asked to do something on the ball?
No. Probably that one, were you not?
No, do you know, I loved it. I loved it. It was something new, you know. It was.
Was that the first time they actually done it as well, or did they do that? That was the first time
we didn't even do it in training.
Wow.
Did you not even practice it?
Well, that's why it was 3-0.
It was after the game. Sorry, it was after training. He called me and said, "This is what we're going to do."
Wow, that's incredible that you did that.
But I genuinely. It's one of those. I love trying new things. I was always, as a kid, I was always watching different players, different keepers, and trying to see what worked for me. I used to watch Oliver Kahn and Casillas and Buffon and see what do they do? Can I use that in my game? And always trying to learn. And this was just a progression, right? Okay, so this is something new. Let's try this. Let's see
I know
how
it's brilliant. These conversations, the game, the way it's moved, but they still have a chat with other goalkeepers going. But remember, the bottom line is
you got to save the ball.
You got to save. Yeah, sure. Does it not obviously go back to that? Because that's
it does. But I think for us, for me, definitely, you've got to be a good goalie. But that's almost a given now. Like, particularly if you're at the top level in the Premier League, everyone's a good goalie, and they have to be. Now it is the extras. What else can you bring to the table? Because we can all save shots, and we should all be able to deal with these things. And that's just standard now. Now it's what else can you bring? And Edison took it to the next level. Definitely. Neuer in 2014 with the sweeper keeper took it to the next level. Every now and then, someone comes along and changes the game, and then all of a sudden that becomes the norm. You know, and now,
like as you said he's going to be a 14-year-old. I've been told now academies they're looking at young players who are outfield and going, we don't think you're going to make it.
Put you in goal.
Focus on being a goalkeeper. Yeah, we know you're not great at a goalkeeper, but goalkeeping the way it's game, it's about being good on your feet.
Striker.
That's exactly what I was going to ask him.
Yeah.
Like a Jill Scott. If you've got a Jill Scott, you just put Jill in goal now.
This episode of Stick to Football is brought to you by Sky Bet.
What were all you said? I was actually just going to ask you that. That's something I've spoke about now because of the, how important the goalkeeper is on the ball. Is it almost you've got to get the footballing side first, and then can we make him a goalkeeper?
I hope
because I've heard that before.
I hope not. I hope that they're in goal because one, they love being in goal. Because, like I said, you have to love that pressure. That's the main thing. If you can deal with that pressure, you're already a long way. But no, I think I agree with you in the sense that at the end of the day, you've got to stop the ball going in the net. That is your first priority. And then, like I said, then it's what else can you bring to the table.
But would you say the top clubs now are looking at goalkeepers? Yeah, the priorities. But if you're not great with your feet, they're like, he's not for us. That's the other pressure on a goalkeeper. Like Pep obviously done it when he first went in. He says, listen, you might be decent, but if you can't pass it, you're gone.
Yeah.
I think it is. Again, I think football goes in cycles as well. You look at, you went look at that, like set pieces now. Everyone's just loading it in the box, whereas like 10 years ago, everyone had to pass it. I think the same with goalkeepers. You know, it was at least it cost me at least one move, my height. You know, you had to be height, you had to be tall, and you had to, you know, when I was coming through the academy, is how far can you kick it and how tall are you? That was kind of the first thing they looked at as a keeper, and I was always deemed too small. I was always too small to be a keeper or to be a top keeper or whatever. But then it goes in circles. You look at now, keepers are just built different, you know, and it'll come back round because of the man-man thing. We're now seeing the ball over the top again.
Yeah.
Casper, you've done that brilliant. The big plus for Leicester was your distribution at Leicester, and that was going long, wasn't it?
It was.
That was a huge.
It's playing to your strengths, and like I say, particularly now when the man is as much as it is, when you're passing into feet, you know, as a midfielder, you're getting pressured. If I'm passing into the 6, he's getting pressured. That's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
If that's otherwise, they're on you. So now, when everyone's man, the space is in behind. So if you can do counter move, and City are brilliant at it, you know, and with Edison's, we saw it the other day.
last week at
Newcastle. Yeah, we saw it exactly.
Talk about Edison a lot.
Only start.
Because I prefer Alisson a lot more over Edison. But I remember you speaking to your dad, and your dad said he preferred Edison over Alisson. I prefer Alisson over Edison. So where would you stand on that sort of debate?
I think they're both very good.
Casper.
Keepers union.
No, for me, I've always had a soft spot for Edison because I think he changed the game. He changed the game in terms of, like, Neuer could play out from the back and all that, but Edison was almost, it was almost poetry watching it. It was so, and I remember playing against him for Leicester. It was the one team we didn't press, because if you press Edison, he'd find David Silva, he'd find he'd find De Bruyne, and he'd play these ridiculous.
But he was an outfield player, wasn't he? He did.
I think he was.
He was a left back when he started.
I still judge a goalkeeper by 2 or 3 things that, for me, I think will either win a team the league or not win a team the league. And for me, it's one-on-one. There'll become a point in a season where there's a big one-on-one. I always think Alisson has got a great chance of saving a one-on-one. I always think catching it under pressure, particularly in big moments in the game which you feel the team's under pressure. And then the other one is holding shots or parrying them well away from goal. They're the 3 things that I always think.
That's everything, Gary.
I'm removing shot stopping. I'm removing actually kicking.
I'm only serious.
I'm removing the kicking element of it. I genuinely don't. I love
Son against City. Remember Son 1v1.
Yeah,
huge moment.
Yeah, but that was the other kid.
Of course, he just come off the bench. Yeah.
But my point is that's why I just slightly prefer Alisson, because I always feel like, for me, Edison's a better kicker of a ball, obviously. I just think in the big moments of 1v1.
I get that. But what I counter that with is the way City, take this season away maybe, but the way City have been able to press has been because any ball over the top.
Yeah, he's out.
He's out, and so you actually stop the one-on-one before it's even happened.
Yeah.
And I think when you talk about adding something to the team, when they've been on at their best and they're pressing out, trust me, I've been on the end of a few of these. You know, you feel suffocated, and even with us, our out ball was Vardy a lot of the time. Couldn't do it because Edison would just be standing, he'd chest it down, he'd pass it, and so actually negating the actual one-on-one, it wouldn't happen a lot, and that's why for me Edison just brought something slightly different in the sense that actually he didn't even need to keep goals sometimes because he'd stop at source. And because he was so brave in his starting position and so high, it meant they could press like.
Hey, and he's brave in hitting people, isn't he, as well?
Oh, he is.
I've seen him a few times.
He
knows he's going to get hurt.
Very much so. Thought to do that, because I think people always think it's just a given. Come out, take the ball and wipe everyone out. But that must be difficult if you've got like Haaland, do you know what I mean? It's like a given.
Again, that I would say that's one of the little old school things that is said. You just come and take it. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
That's a penalty now.
Small bit. No, I told you I worked with Seamus McDonough years ago with Ireland. I said this many times before, and I used to hear him speaking to the goalkeeper before games, and he would always say to him, when you come, you come with violence. Yeah. I was like, I love that.
I love
You're a goalkeeper. On crosses, not just come and hit people. It must be great for a goalkeeper as well. Listen, when you can use your hands and take the ball, and also, hey, listen, I'm going to take somebody out here.
But I think I completely agree with you, because I am from that generation as well, and I do, as weird as I do love a good collision sometimes, but I just think now with VAR that you've got to be so much more careful, because now it's just perception. Is that violent conduct? Is he, it's really on the day. I remember.
But usually the goalkeepers get away. We've seen the United keeper get away a few times, isn't it?
Yeah,
When he's mistimed
Wolves,
it.
yeah.
Wolves a couple of times.
Yeah,
Start the
but again, I'll counter that from the goalkeeper's perspective. A lot of the time, for example, if a striker's going in and he gets like just clipped, there's contact, that's a penalty. But then that's got to be worked the other way. Any contact on the keeper, that's a free kick then, because any contact, particularly on the arms or any nudge when you're off balance, that's got to be a free kick then.
Yeah.
If contact's enough for a penalty, then contact's enough for a free kick for the keeper.
Yes.
It's got to work both ways, in my opinion, because when you are particularly, I remember I watched the Liverpool game, your commentary on Alisson. He punched one from a corner
and he held the next
one. But the reason he's punched the first one is because he's not had any shout from behind him. He doesn't know what's behind him. Right. So if he's deemed in his head, if he's catching that, if he gets clattered, he's falling in, onto here. But you're not guaranteed, particularly in the Premier League, you're not guaranteed a free kick. I've gone and played in Europe. If anybody touches you, it's a free kick.
Yeah.
But that's not the way.
Does that drive you mad when you're listening to, like, jokes aside, not just Gary, people, obviously pundits, talking about goalkeepers, because it is a special position. You're going, like the usual one, keeper shouldn't be beaten at the near post. All a bit ridiculous, because obviously you can be.
He should have caught that.
No, but there are certain things.
I thought it was a comfortable catch for him, that first one. And to be fair, he didn't have anyone near him. And to be fair, whether he knew where he was or whether someone didn't shout him, I don't know, because obviously I'm miles away. But the second one he did catch, to be fair.
He did, yeah. I think there is an element sometimes, because a throwaway comment can be it can sound quite disrespectful because there's a lot of work that goes into these things. But I think particularly you said the near post one. Well, does that kind of indicate, well, it's okay to be beaten at the far post?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not okay to be beaten at the far post.
Everyone
either.
says about the near post.
But it's not a thing, because it's an angle thing. So if you get beaten at your near post hit, but if you turn that into the middle of the goal and he gets beat there, then no one says a word. But then that also indicates that, okay, if he curls it round me, then that's all right, I'll let that in. No,
You might as well just stand
it's
at the
not.
What drives me back as a goalkeeper is with the wall. Who was it the weekend? Pickford. The wall's there, and they do that,
and then he's still gambling.
Oh, that can't happen. That can't happen.
Casper, though, there is a way to concede goals for a goalkeeper. Sometimes if it goes into the near post, it looks.
telling him that?
No, what I'm saying.
I get that.
I'm looking
Your
from a
wisdom is
commentary
unbelievable.
perspective. Like Pickford one on Saturday, you can't concede that 'cause it's on your side.
That's what I'm saying, Chair.
So my point is,
but I'm sure goalkeepers will argue.
There are certain things, but what I'm saying is, every goal is different.
Don't you two start.
I just think that you can't go like as a rule of thumb. You can't get beaten in your near post. You can't. I just don't think you can say that, because if the ball goes past you here at 95 miles an hour,
that's tough.
but it's near post, then it's your fault. But if it does exactly the same there,
it's not.
It's the same goal. It's the same outcome. It doesn't make a difference whether it's near post or.
But the wall. What about the wall one? Is there a thing with goalkeepers where you go but when lads go through set piece and the wall's there for a reason. But keepers, I hate when they do this and. Oh my God!
I get that, because again, but I think that's bravery as well, of actually just staying there. Because I think it's one of them. Okay, if you get it over the wall, you sometimes you've got to hold your hand up and say, okay, fine, fair enough. Particularly if you've got the man down and everyone's jumping, if you can still get it over the wall, then well done. I do agree that you've got to really try and protect your side of the goal. That's the whole point of it. But the same goes within the game. You've got to have these. You've got to. The best people I've ever seen is Bayern Munich, like with Neuer, and particularly when David Alaba was playing there, is how they mark on one-on-ones or how they mark on shots. So if you remember the Champions League a couple of weeks ago, they actually let one of the, I think it was Slovan Bratislava players, go in one-on-one with Neuer and not go and cover. That's a very clear strategy, because they don't want the tap-in. So you have to have these kind of agreements within the team that this is how we do it. So particularly on the free kicks, there'll be an agreement in place. This is how we do it. I don't know what the agreement is at Everton or whatever it is. It's different at every single club. But I think generally that is the consensus, is that the reason you have a wall is that you minimise the area that they can hit, and you cover the area that you can cover.
This episode of Stick to Football is brought to you by Sky Bet.
I just want to ask about Leicester, because you've been speaking about like City and how hard it is to play against them, and you're talking about De Bruyne and Silva and all those players. Remember that the game you beat them 3-1. What was the dressing room like when you went in that dressing room? Because I just watched Liverpool beat City, and I know it's not the same City, but there seemed to be a resignation that this was a big one for us. What was it like in the dress? Because I remember watching that game saying,
it was a big
that's
one,
it,
that.
it's over, Leicester have done it. And then I think you went and beat Man United 1-0 at home, and Morgan scored.
I think you won at Spurs.
1-1 away.
Was it 1-1 away? He
I think you
scored
went
right
at
at the
Spurs as well. I think you had a big win.
we
Beat them Spurs where you
What was it
thought,
like
yeah,
after that City? That was amazing, huh? That's
good.
I started to think, Leicester can do it.
No, I think we were kind of we went to Swansea away and beat them 3-0, and that meant we'd be top at Christmas. And we went on our Christmas do after, and I remember we sat on the bus afterwards and like, lads, this is happening.
Yeah, seriously.
This is happening.
Jesus, how much string did you have?
No, good.
No, this was no. But do you know what?
made you
Saying
think
that,
that?
you're saying it that early?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Why? What?
I thought you'd fall away in January, February.
Do you know what it was? It was the season before. We were dead and buried.
Right, yes.
We were 10 points off safety with 10 games to go. And it was as if you're trying to get a key into this lock and nothing's working. And then all of a sudden you get the right one and you turn the key.
Right.
We found a way to win. We found a way to win, and then you get one win. That turned into 2, that turned into 3. I think we won 8 out of 10 and drew 1, lost to Chelsea, who became champions.
Right.
And that momentum, that belief just carried over. It just carried over. And we'd found this way to win, and we to be fair, we actually started the season, scored a lot of goals, but we didn't keep a clean sheet for the first 10 games. But then we started like being solid at the back as well. And then, I don't know, there was just...
What was it?
We had some good players, don't we? This shouldn't obviously underestimate you.
Who was it at the back there? Was it
Good players.
Simpson and Morgan? And
Yeah, so we had Simpson, Morgan, Huth and Fuchs, yeah. And then we had Marcin Vasilevsky to come in if we were going to go to a 3.
And then it was Danny Drinkwater and because
Kante,
Because
oh my
Kante,
God,
because
Kante.
and
Drinky,
Mahrez,
Kante, Mahrez, Albright, Okazaki and
Casper, who's the most important player in that team from an outfield perspective? Is it Mahrez? Is it Kante? Is it
Kante
Vardy?
covered every
The
blade
goal
of
scorer.
grass.
The goal scorer.
Who's the most important
again,
player?
I think it's...
Mahrez was good, though.
I think
Mahrez
the
was
spine,
amazing.
because...
Who's the player that you'd have missed most if you had to take him out of the running?
Oh, that would have been...
Mahrez, Jamie.
Well, yeah...
Kante.
But no, yeah,
I would
Kante,
have
but
said
if you take Vardy out,
Drinkwater.
But
if you take
Kasper-
Vardy out, we're struggling. If you take Kante out, you are. Mahrez, if you take Huth or Morgan out,
But we're talking about here about Arsenal losing Saka or losing Saliba or no, we're talking about we always talk about a player lose and all of a sudden they can't win the league. Who would have been that player for you?
it would have been N'Golo, I think. N'Golo was
The glue. He was the glue.
yeah.
wasn't he?
But you know, even talking about that Swansea, I remember we're 3-0 up, and he wins the ball back like down near our left-hand side, left-hand corner, and within 30 seconds he's up in the right-hand corner and thinking that's just ridiculous. His engine was ridiculous. It was like having an extra player. And the reason I remember that one goal against Everton is because it's the first tackle I remember him missing.
Yeah.
Right.
He missed the tackle, and it was like the reaction in the stadium was like, "What? What's going on?" You know what I mean?
His numbers were incredible when you've seen what he ran in a game. But
That's his job,
do you
though,
think
wasn't
that way? Do you think that goes from having a good dressing room, like everybody doing like 1.5 jobs? That's what it looked like when you watch them that season. They were willing to run.
Has any team never won anyone out of a good dressing room? You know,
I know, everyone says that.
I don't think I think people always when you talk about like team spirit or dressing room, it's because you win creates the great. It's not like we've got a great dressing room now we win. It's about winning. You win, and then it becomes like we have this now. Because when you win, everyone goes for the berry. Everyone comes in on a Monday morning. Everyone's in a good mood.
Yeah.
When you're getting beat, everyone's like, it just. I think it's the winning that actually creates.
Yeah, we had a good
spirit.
dressing room, but we were still fighting. You're
But
still
everyone's
fighting
got a
with
good
each other. Yeah,
dressing room,
you're
haven't
pushing
No,
each
I
other.
don't think everybody does have a good dressing
Not everyone,
room.
but
I think
I think the winning teams do, 100%.
Exactly,
You look
because
at
they
your
win.
mate,
But I actually think we were
but you're
slightly
looking-
different in the sense that we had quite a set core, and we were a different club. Like we always joke we were the best pub team in the world because we genuinely were. Like no, but the thing about you said everyone goes for a drink. Like, we'd still do that when we lost.
Yeah.
You know, and it was. We weren't like you guys. There wasn't the fighting. That wasn't us. We were more.
Did you have a fight?
Them just arguing with each other.
No, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. It was the sense that we'd been brought together and we had this really, really good group of players who everyone had a point to prove, but then we also had an owner who was so different to anything I've ever experienced and probably ever will experience, but just did things right. But he was the catalyst for all of this. Win or lose, we were having a good time. That was what it was about.
What, going out and having...
Yeah, but he would organise the things. He'd take us out for dinners, and he'd organise these things. He'd make sure that regardless if we win or lost, that we'd still finish the evening properly.
Happily and
so we move on. He always said, like, never demanded us to win. He just demanded we give our best. If we've given our best, that's all that's what he said. That's all I can ask for. And he went above and beyond for every single player. He looked after every single player. But he, more than anything, he drove the collective. He drove the collective. There was always an event. There was always something. And it was always these amazing things that you'd never get to do. Meeting royalty at polo matches. He'd take us to these things because his son played polo.
Right.
But then they'd
Sounds like a nightmare.
No, but it wasn't. Trust me, you'd have loved it. You would have loved it.
You're right. You're probably right.
Yeah, you would have
When
loved
you
it.
look
my mind to
after
this
like
stuff.
that, you want to then repay
You'd
them
do
on the
anything
pitch,
for them
don't you?
because there was not like, if your family went on a holiday, they were going to Thailand, he'd make sure they were looked after. It doesn't matter who you were.
Little few quid.
No, he just looked after everyone.
Everybody.
And that just meant that everyone was willing to go that extra mile.
That's really interesting, because that is very much like, maybe I hear sort of like international players that play at Real Madrid or at, say, Juventus, to say that they know the owner.
Yeah.
In English football, it's very unusual. I mean, I never knew it, that basically the players would have that relationship with the owner. I think Chelsea had a little bit of it with Abramovich.
Yeah, he was good.
But it's an unusual model in England. You don't mention there Claudio Ranieri, who's the man in between. Where does he sit in all this?
Well, you got to remember, in the whole ownership scheme, there was a lot of different managers. So when I came in, it was Sven, and then Nigel Pearson. Nigel Pearson was the one who kind of, cause with Sven, we were a bit up and down, and obviously he brought in a lot of players, and he was a massive name to get for Leicester. But Nigel was kind of the guy who put the foundations. He kind of stripped everything back to the basics, right? What are we actually here for? We're here to win. How do we do that? We get the right people. So he had Steve Walsh, who was and Craig Shakespeare, get Mike Stowell, get these right people in as a coaching group. And I remember they really did their homework on the players. So with Riyadh, for example, Steve Walsh would go, he'd interview his former teachers and things like just is he the right character to bring into this group? And they did a lot of homework with that. And that's why I say that core group was really important. And obviously Claudio came in, then we had Claude Puel, and then Brendan came in, and the foundations were laid at the start by Nigel. Yeah. And that team and that club was built on people, on characters. And obviously the older we got, people started falling away, because of age, people left, and it gradually became more and more difficult to keep those standards that were there. But then you got someone like Brendan that came in, and he elevated our standards to something different. We played better football, well, probably more attractive football than maybe we did under Claudio. But I think the whole thing about the ownership was it was so personable. It was unique in that sense. And you never felt you owed them anything. Like they'd do anything for you, but you didn't owe them anything other than giving your best.
I think
that was enough.
What he's getting at is I think we were all very critical at the time when Ranieri went, that it from the outside looking in, it felt like it was player power at Leicester. That's what it basically was. We were probably, I think there was a game when Ranieri went, and then you beat Liverpool. I'm sure it was Liverpool on a Monday Night Football. There was this feeling from outside of Leicester that Ranieri being harshly treated. Do you think this is the guy who's won the title, and then Leicester, I think he was probably fighting relegation or the bottom half of the table. So what I'm saying, was that fair? What was the communication between the ownership? Have you got such a good relationship with them as players?
No, I think we were informed. We were just informed that was the direction it was going to go, and I think we won 6 in a row after, or 5 in a row after. It was.
What does that say?
Well, we changed we changed our. For some reason, we changed our shape. We changed our style of play.
From the season before,
yeah,
when you
from
won
the season
league?
before, yeah. And it just didn't work for us. We like I said, we're champions. We're fighting relegation.
Yeah.
There's something wrong there, and whatever the perception is on the outside, it kind of is. That's not kind of on us. The the decision was made, and it was vindicated in the sense that we went and won. You know, we appointed Craig Shakespeare. And the role he played, you know, I want to give him a special mention just in the Championship season, like winning the Championship and the Premier League. Like Shakey's no longer with us. He was an incredible man, and I've probably never seen a more respected man in football, a more loved man in football, because not only did he know his shit, like he knew his stuff. He was an incredibly good coach. He was very, very switched on tactically. He was one of those, he wouldn't have any problem telling you if you weren't doing it. But also he had this incredible human side of him as well. And he was always kind of between the players and the coach, whoever the coach was, because he survived quite a few coaches, you know. And he has a massive, massive part of why Leicester became what Leicester became, for sure.
I used to do a role for your dad. So for your dad, for the team, to be fair, at United. So I was the man who stood in front of your dad, basically, when the player would go and stand on the goalkeeper. And he'd always have me stand between him and the player. So I had to basically mark so he was behind me, and I'd mark him like that. I'd mark him like that, and my job was to keep him away from blocking your goalkeeper. Right. When Edwin van der Sar came in, he was the opposite. He would have me stood this side, and I used to think, what a waste of time that is, because now he can just go and block the goalkeeper. Where are you on that? Where are you on that?
Again, I've actually never really involved myself that much in set pieces in terms of what
even on that role.
No, because at the end of the day, my focus is solely on the ball. The reason my dad had that was obviously because he was a very dominant keeper in the air.
And he came out.
And he came out and was a part of the aerial play. That's not a big part of my game, and that's not really. I think Courtois, probably Neuer, the only two in the world right now that are like seriously dominant in the air. It's not a big part of the game anymore in that sense. I think when you go to depending on whatever you're doing, zonal or man-to-man, I think man-to-man, it makes more sense to be on the inside to keep him away from the keeper. But if you're zonal, it's all about looking at the ball and going and attacking the ball, which makes more sense for you to be on the outside so you can go and attack the ball.
Yeah.
But I think as a goalkeeper, I'm not a massive fan of zonal because it just creates more congestion for me to have to come into.
So you're man-to-man at Celtic at the moment, are you?
Yeah, we're man-to-man at the moment. It gives me more space to work with. Whereas if you've got that ring of players around you, you're coming into double traffic every single time. Yes. And that just means, I think, that the keeper stays more within or within his little area rather than coming out. And it depends on players as well. If you've got Van Dijk being able to head everything away, you know, that makes a big difference. But it depends very much, I think, on the system that the way you're marking up.
Kasper, you're 38 years of age.
Really?
Cas, you look well.
Are you thinking that I'm not retiring anytime soon? Are you thinking I've got another 2 or 3 years left in me?
Do you know, I've never thought in limitations.
You've not thought about retirement at all yet?
No, because...
What are you going to do after retirement? Anything?
Is that because goalkeepers go on longer, Cas, so you don't have to think about it?
I've never been a kind of guy to think in limitations. I think if I was thinking limitations, I'd live into the whole living in the shadow of someone and maybe not achieving the things I wanted to. Yeah. So I've always lived in the thought that anything's possible. But I've also been lucky in the sense that I've had a dad that's gone through this, and I don't know how you guys feel. You've obviously all retired. I don't know. Is there a better job out there than being a footballer?
No.
So
I was struggling at the end with injuries, so I felt like I had to retire. You know what I mean? It was like.
Also, have you enjoyed anything as much as you did before?
Yeah, I've enjoyed my post-football career. Yeah.
But if someone could give you back your best years, like physically, would you go back to it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah. So while I'm physically able,
absolutely,
I know there's not something better for me waiting for me right now. So. But what I do now is I appreciate it more than ever.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard you say a few times that about having a foreign adventure. I had that. I obviously didn't go to one of the top clubs. If I could go back, I'd never have done that. I'd never leave the Premier League. The Premier League is the be-all and end-all. It is the best, without any shadow of a doubt. And it just means now I've tried that. That's the lesson I've taken from that, is that the British game, I'm in the Scottish game, but the whole British game, that's unique. Right. And I don't want to leave that. I don't want to leave that at all if I can.
So you wouldn't go to America or to anywhere else to play it? You sort of.
I've tried. No, I feel I've tried that now.
You almost feel like you're on the outside looking in type of thing when you go to another league. Is that how big the Premier League is?
100%. I think you're in this bubble as a Premier League player and you don't actually realise how big it is. And I think going abroad, as much as there's lots of learning within it. If I could go back, I'd never do it. I didn't want to leave to start off with, but situation was what it was. But I think the British game is what I grew up in, and I love the mentality of having to win every single game. And I think that.
Did you get a taste of it going to Villa with Celtic a little bit? Was that nice to get back into that?
Well, do you know what? It was one of those things. Thinking it is a weird one because potentially that could be my last ever game on British soil, or on English soil at least. But what it does is I appreciate every game now a lot more than ever, and I love it. I absolutely love it. There's nothing but we've now had a schedule where we've played every 3 days, and we're going to a schedule now where we're probably going to play weekend to weekend. I just want to play. I just want to play. And obviously, as a keeper, I'm not putting the same physical output as the outfielders are. So it's maybe a little bit different for me. But
how long have you got Celtic? Have you got another year left?
Yeah, I've got another year after this. But again, I think when you get to that age, you just
play it by ear.
Yeah, you're just playing it by ear and not taking anything for granted because you know as well as anyone, an injury could finish it all. So I think.
You probably feel Irish a bit as well now, do you? With the Celtic connections.
Definitely.
Won you over, yeah.
Definitely. I mean, like I say, I love football. I've always loved football, and going away from England really reaffirmed my fact that this is where I want to be. And the opportunity of going at Celtic was a unique one for me because you've played for clubs where it's expected to win. I've never really played for those clubs where it's expected. So going to Celtic now, that pressure that if you don't win, if you just draw, it's a catastrophe. Yeah. But also I think it's elevated my game because now it's not just about winning, it's about being perfect. Now we don't have to just win, we have to do it perfectly. So every action I do now, every bit of handling, every pass, everything has to be perfect now. It's not just about winning. That's
the Rangers games. You must have enjoyed that experience.
Loved them.
It was cool. Isn't it?
Loved it. It's an incredible experience. And like I say, now there's different things that motivate me. Now it is about winning and winning well, and how much can we win, And the Champions League this season was an incredible experience,
good effort,
and we had a
competed.
Yeah, we competed. I think
that
was nice. But again, for my mentality, I wanted to win, and that was tough. That was a tough kind of moment, but. I think you go through tough periods in your career and you go through great periods in your career. And while you're still physically able, then, why not continue?
And is the body okay? Like if you've got 3 games a week, do you have to look after yourself a bit more than the younger lads, or are you okay?
I think personally that experience is the greatest gift you can have if you're physically still able, because, I'll train differently than when I was 20, of course I will.
Yeah.
But also I spend a lot of time, doing the ice baths, doing the saunas and all these other things that you have to do. But
Gary thinks the ice baths is the key. Ice baths.
Sauna's mine. The sauna's mine. The sauna is like that. That is. If anybody ever asks where I am in the training ground, they just need to look in the sauna. Yeah, that's
final question: pundit or coach?
Both, I think.
Exactly.
I think I'd try both.
I'm
doing my badges, and the actual coaching element on the pitch. I love. Yeah. I love that part. That's really enjoyable, and I enjoy doing things like this as well. So I think just kind of see, but.
You'll be taking our jobs in the next couple of years, right? That's what she's trying to tell us.
Well, I'll be joining you.
He's got a good look for TV.
No. But I don't know. I think you want to just try and do a bit of everything, of course. And see what kind of like. I don't know what will be the future. I think right now I just want to stay in the now, because I don't want to look too far ahead, because I know the type of person I am. I'll be sitting in 10 years' time thinking, why didn't I just enjoy it a bit more? Always thinking too far ahead.
You're too wise for this show, isn't it?
Casper, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice one, Cas.